This video has been produced by the Tumut Aero Club as a guide for pilots flying into the Tumut Aerodrome for any of the Aero Club's events where you may be marshalled. In this video, we will cover the ICAO signals, which are the International Standard Signals, as well as the ICAO signals, which are the Australian Standard Signals. The information in this video will be a good guide to get you and your aircraft safely around most airfields in Australia with properly trained ground marshals. This video is a guide for pilots of fixed-wing aircraft and is not intended as a video for training marshals. Our marshalling personnel have undergone flight line-specific safety training and ground marshalling courses. We do not encourage people to marshal aircraft without this training. If you're interested in Tumut Aero Club's events or training to become a ground marshal, you can contact the Tumut Aero Club via the website www.tumutaeroclub.org.au. Pilots are required to follow marshalling directions. Marshals are often accepting the responsibility of safety for your aircraft and the marshalling area. This allows aircraft movements to be smooth and flowing. If a pilot does not follow the directions of a marshal, the pilot accepts all responsibility. As a result, you should follow the signals as marshals can often see hazards on the flight line that may not be visible from the aircraft. So let's get started by looking at the ICAO Standard Signals. The first signal you will see from a marshal is the Your Marshal. This signal is displayed by both arms straight above the head and shows you the specific marshal you need to follow. To confirm that you have seen the marshal, signal to the marshal with a thumbs up or by signaling the affirmative signal by flashing the landing lights on and off several times quickly. If the marshal needs you to stop, they will extend both arms fully to their side and then raise their hands to form a cross above their head. The speed of this signal will indicate how quickly you will need to stop. If the cross is not preceded by raising the arms to the side, it means stop immediately. If the marshal needs you to slow down, they will indicate this by waving both arms in a downward motion below the waist. A yes is demonstrated by a wand pointing up above shoulder height. This signal has other meanings including I understand, Wilco, and affirmative, and may be used by both you and the marshaller. Flashing the landing lights several times also means yes. A no is displayed by the right arm extended to the side and the wand pointing downwards. A pilot can use the thumbs down to indicate no, unclear, can't comply, or negative. Or alternatively, the landing lights on steady also means no. If your marshal needs to send you to another ground marshal, this will be displayed by raising both arms straight up, followed by pointing in the direction of the next marshal. This signal means proceed to the next marshal and is also known as a handoff. This means you are no longer under guidance by this particular marshal. You are either needed to follow another marshal or you may be free to taxi without further guidance. The straight ahead signal is indicated by both arms being waved up and down at shoulder height. This signal means continue in a straight path in your current direction. It does not mean proceed towards the marshal. The speed of the marshal's arm movements indicate the speed that your taxi should be. Left and right turns are indicated by one arm pointing in the direction of the turn while the other arm continues the move forward signal. For a left turn, the marshal will point to your left. For a right turn, the marshal will point to your right. When the marshal needs you to shut down your engine, they will indicate this by a slicing motion across the neck. When a marshal is present, they are able to assist you with your startup. By giving a marshal a thumbs up, you are asking if it is clear to begin your pre-start checklist. The marshal will check that the area is clear of any hazards and will give you a thumbs up for you to commence your checks. When you have completed your checklist and are ready to start your engine, signal the marshal to ask if the area is clear for engine ignition. This is done by drawing a small circle at eye level, similar to a lassoing motion. If the area is clear, the marshal will give you a clearance. When you are ready to begin taxiing, signal the marshal again with a thumbs up. If the marshal gives you a negative or stand by, please wait as there may be a temporary hazard they are waiting to clear. When the hazard is clear, the marshal will give you a thumbs up to proceed. Now we will look at some additional signals that may be used by a marshal for either the ICAO standard or the Australian standard. A marshal may ask you if you require fuel. This is indicated by bringing a hand up to the mouth. If you need fuel, give a thumbs up. If you have sufficient fuel, advise the marshal with a thumbs down. A marshal may indicate a clearance distance between an extremity of your aircraft and another obstruction. The distance between the wands will demonstrate the clearance. Hold position may be shown to advise there is a hazard that the marshal is waiting to clear. If this is signalled, do not operate or touch any aircraft controls. It may be necessary for a marshal to approach the aircraft to gather or provide information, and as a result, a marshal may ask to approach the aircraft. To minimise threats to safety, we encourage this to be done with the engine off. The marshal will place one hand in the air, and the other hand will point from the marshal wishing to approach and then point to your aircraft. ICAO signals without wands. Signals from marshals have the same meaning with or without wands. Wands can be considered to be an extension of the hands or fingers to aid in effective communication over a large area. Here are the signals without wands so that you can see that there are practically no differences. There are some minor differences between the ICAO Standard Signals and the Australian Civil Aviation Order Signals. The Your Marshal is where the marshal will wave one arm above the head to gain your attention. The acknowledgement of the marshal is the same for both standards. If the marshal needs you to stop, they will extend both arms fully to their side and raise their hands to above their head, crossing them over several times. Again, the speed of the signal will indicate how quickly you need to stop. The signal for slow down is the same between both standards. The signal for yes is also the same in both standards. The no signal is displayed by the right arm held above the head with the wand pointing downwards towards the neck. The proceed to the next marshal signal is slightly different from the ICAO signal. Instead of the marshal placing both arms up and then to the side, the marshal will point the arm in the direction of the next marshal. The straight ahead signal is indicated by both arms beckoning towards the marshal at shoulder height. Like the ICAO signal, it means continue in a straight path in your current direction and not towards that marshal. Left and right turns are indicated by one arm pointing downwards in the direction of the turn, whilst the other arm continues the straight ahead signal. For left turns, the marshal will point to your left. For right turns, the marshal will point to your right. The gate or parking bay is demonstrated in this standard by both arms pointing straight up like the ICAO Your Marshal signal. The shut down your engine signal is the same between both standards, indicated by a slicing motion across the neck. When you are ready to start the engines, the signal is a forward circle in a clockwise motion to the marshal to ask if the area is clear for engine ignition. If the area is clear, the marshal will return the signal. When you are ready to begin taxiing, signal the marshal with a thumbs up. Further signals. There are some further signals that may be used in place or addition to some of these signals. These signals may comply with the ICAO or CAO standards or may meet other standards. The most common other signal you are likely to see is an alteration to the this bay signal. This is regularly displayed by pointing one arm to the ground where the aircraft nose will end up, and the other arm points to the final location of the vertical stabilizer. A handoff may also be utilised by one arm pointing towards the next marshal, followed by the other arm swinging either overhead or underarm to meet the other hand so that both arms are pointing towards the next marshal. You may also see the no signal being displayed by a wand pointing down or a thumbs down with the arm being pointed down below the shoulder height. Now let's look at some of the signals played out in different scenarios. Watch the signals displayed by the pilots and marshals to see how marshalling can help to direct aircraft safely around the airport. hope that you have found this video to be useful and informative, and hope that you can utilize this video to help you understand the directions given to aid your safe movements around airports. We hope to see you at one of the Tumut Aero Club's many events, and please share this video with your aviation friends to help increase marshalling signal awareness. There is a high number of risks and hazards that are found on active airports and flight lines. We encourage all our pilots to undertake flight line safety training and marshalling courses before undertaking any aircraft marshalling, along with regular marshalling activities. We do not allow people without this training to operate as marshals and recommend that people do not marshal aircraft without completing appropriate approved training courses. Flight line and airside activities are dangerous environments, and without proper training and management, the likelihood of an accident or serious injury occurring is greatly increased. We would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and as a result, you are helping to make our flight lines a safer environment for everyone.